Well. It was gonna happen at one point or the other, but yes, Static is getting nerfed in 14.7. In today's video, I'm not only gonna cover the change to Static, but I'll also cover other changes that are happening in 14.7. Now, this is a no script video. The patch preview just came out a couple minutes ago, so this is just my raw reaction. So if my voice is a bit scuffed, it's normal, sorry for my French. I'll try to be as slow as possible so everyone can understand what I'm saying. And with that said, let's get started. So the nerf to Static is a cost increase. It's going from 2,700 gold to 2,900 gold. So to be fair, this is a pretty fair nerf because Static is, I'm not gonna lie, a really strong item. On many ADCs, it's the best in slot for many ADCs and also for Kaisa. If you look at win rates right now, it has a 52% win rate almost on Kaisa, which is almost 2 points higher than every other than Kraken Slayer and a bit less, but still almost 2 points for Eclipse, which is pretty impressive to be totally fair. So the reason why it's so strong is because of the stats it gives you. I think many people underestimate the power of Static, but people forget that it gives you 50 AD, 30 attack speed, and 20 crit. Compare this to Kraken Slayer that only gives you 40 AD, which is 10 less AD, only 5% more attack speed, and this is for 3,000 gold. So it's a really cheap price for so many stats, especially on Kaisa that needs AD early on for Q evolution. You have a cheap Q evolution, your Q does a lot of damage because of the 50 AD, so overall it's a super comfortable item for the champion. Now, I was pretty scared that they would nerf the AD because with how tight our Kaisa Q evolution, this would have probably messed up a lot of things, but thankfully this is just a cost increase. This means that although it's a nerf to Kaisa, and the win rate of the champion will most likely decrease, it doesn't change any other builds. Right now, the most popular build there is going for Static into Rageblade. This combo, and then you go for Nasus for hybrid, or you go for Turnus for AD. This combo will most likely remain the best in slot for Kaisa because it's the best combo of comfort and damage out of all the options. It's still gonna beat a Kraken Slayer RB or Kraken Slayer Turnus because Static is just that more comfortable, especially in most lanes. Now, one thing that might change on the other hand is with Eclipse. Now, Eclipse gives you Q evolution with Eclipse plus Longsword at level 6, not level 7, but level 6. The thing is that now the gap between Static and Eclipse is wider now, because for Eclipse you need to spend not only 2,900 gold, but then also 875 gold to get the Q evolution. So now it's even more expensive to get Q with Eclipse. This means that if you're going for a hybrid build, like for example Eclipse into Kraken Slayer, there we go. If you get fed in lane, going for Eclipse is now even more worth it because you get such a early Q evolution. Because before, you could still go for Static because it's such a cheap Q evolution, but now with a way bigger gap between those two items, if you get fed, I think it's overall better to go for Eclipse over Static when you get fed in lane. When you get fed. Apart from that, that's the only change I can technically see because I still think that nothing will really change. One thing though I need to mention is the crit Kaisa. Now, if you watch my channel, you probably see me play more crit Kaisa recently because after the change to Navari that changed the build pass, basically removing the pickaxe, meaning you can't get the easy pickaxe plus longsword Q evolution. You need to actually buy the BF sword to get Q evolution, which is a bit more awkward. I try to find new ways to build crit Kaisa so it's more comfortable for Q evolution, and the way I found it, the thing I found was going for double Noonquiver, which is basically Static into Kraken Slayer, into Navari, or into IE, depending on your game. I still think this is a really good option to go for, even with the nerf to Static, which is pretty much gonna impact the champion as a whole, but I still think it's a good build, so that doesn't change. One thing though that is interesting, since it's more expensive now to get evolution, one thing you can do next patch, and it's still need testing, but it's just a thought, you can go for 2 Doomquivers, 1 and 2, and then you buy the shard, and this will give you evolution at around level 8 basically. Yes, exactly 100 at level 8. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because one issue when you are building Static or Noonquiver is the cloak. When you buy the cloak, buying a cloak that early into the game doesn't make any sense. It doesn't give you much value. 15% crit chance is like really gambling. You're not getting much value from that. So one thing you can do is, instead of like buying cloak, if you don't have enough money, you can go for 2 Noonquivers and a shard to get a easy 2000. This is 2,600 plus 700, which is 3,300 gold for evolution. So yeah, but just a thought. But yes, it's overall, this change is not gonna change anything for builds. I won't need to do a new guide. It's gonna be the same. So it's just a nerf, it's a direct nerf, but in terms of builds, what worked in 14.6 will work in 14.7, no problem with that. Now, moving on, I want to go over and talk about a few changes that are happening to champions that will impact Kaisa. The first one is a change to Smolder. Now, Smolder is getting a buff, which is interesting after all the domination he had over the past couple patches. But anyways, it's a really small buff. The base armor is going from 24 to 26. That's the only thing that matters here. The Q crit ratio doesn't really matter for this discussion. So normally, when you look at Smolder, is a pretty meh matchup for Kaisa. The reason why it's meh is because he has really good poke, but he's really squishy. That means that if you have a good support, you can easily kind of kill him if you get land CC basically. This change will not make any difference basically. It will still be really squishy. So overall, it's a super small buff that doesn't change how the lane will function. So if you're seeing this, if you're seeing like the armor increase, it doesn't change anything. You can easily still burst him down with a good combo with your CC support, or when you go in and you land your entire combo as Kaisa. So that's not gonna change anything. Now the second champion I need to mention here is Lux. Lux is getting a small buff. The passive AP ratio is going from 25 to 30%, and the Q AP ratio is going from 60 to 65%. Now before everyone panic, this is mostly a mid lane buff, not support. Because in support, this champion generally max E first, and then in lane, they throw a lot of E's and that's it. They're not as likely to land passive and to land Qs in bot lane compared to mid lane. That means that if you play Kaisa, you most likely will not feel the buff to Lux support. Yes, it does a bit more damage, but it's not gonna be the biggest change. You most likely will not even feel it. So that's that. Now for Kaisa top lane, there are two champions I need to mention. The first one is Nasus. Nasus is getting a pretty nice buff. The passive lifesteal is going from 1121 to 1224, and the Q base damage is going from 30-110 to 40-120. Now the Q base damage is not the biggest change, but what makes this change really annoying is the passive lifesteal buff. Because here's the thing, Nasus is a pretty difficult matchup for Kaisa because Nasus as a champion is a natural counter to most ranged champions. The thing is that Kaisa doesn't have that much poke in lane compared to a Vayne or an Ashcan, for example. So into Nasus, you're really relying on your Q and your auto attacks. With this passive buff, it makes it even harder to actually poke the Nasus down when he doesn't have his ultimate, which makes it even harder to have a lot of impact in lane, forcing you basically to farm. Now, it doesn't make the lane impossible like Aurelia or Kled, but it just makes it a bit more annoying and makes it even more sleepy because you really cannot kill him anymore in lane. And finally, the last champion I need to mention is Fiora. Fiora is getting a super small nerf, really small. The base AD is going down from 68 to 65. Honestly, for me, I think this champion is so strong. I wish that they gave her a bigger nerf, like nerfing the Q, nerfing the W slow, or nerfing the ultimate. But no, they gave her the smallest nerf possible. Now, even though it's not gonna matter that much, it will matter in the first couple levels. So basically, when you play Kaisa into Fiora, the objective of Kaisa basically is to shove the wave 1, 2, and 3. So after that, depending on where the enemy jungle is, you can put more pressure into her, or you can let the wave rebound into you to protect yourself from a gank. The thing is that in these first 3 waves, most of the time, Fiora players will try to poke you down and will try to contest your push. Now it will be even harder to do because they have less AD. So now if they try to contest your push, you have a higher chance to actually win hard those trades and force the Fiora to back off. So yeah, it will be harder for Fiora to actually contest, making it easier to actually get those 3 with shove. After level 6, this nerf doesn't matter anymore. It's really only for the first couple of levels where it will matter a little bit, basically. So there you go, that's the patch. Now there are more changes, but I only covered the ones that actually matter for Kaisa. If you want to see the full post, I'll link it in the comments. And yeah, everything that works in 14.6 can work in 14.7. And in terms of like champion nerf, the matchup will remain the same. There are small like changes, but yeah, nothing is happening basically. So yeah, there you go. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.